7.4 Hypothesis tests for proportions using Z. Kind of like we saw back in chapter 6, once we did confidence intervals for a mean using Z and then again using T, we started to look at how we could do confidence intervals for proportions, and we used Z again. We're going to do hypothesis tests one more time, and we're going to test proportions this time, and we'll be back to Z values instead of T. So to find the P value that we need to do these hypothesis tests for proportions, we will again press the Stat button, arrow over twice to the Tests menu, and look for one prop Z test. On my calculator, it's option number 5, but we are doing a proportion, so it should say prop with Z, and it's a hypothesis test, so one prop Z test. We'll enter in the values for the problem, and then down at the bottom hit calculate or draw to get our results. So for our first example, we're looking at the Humane Society claiming that 5% of U.S. households have taken in a stray dog. In a random sample of 200 U.S. households, 12 say they have taken in a stray dog. So using that sample for evidence, we'd like to see if at alpha equals 0.05 there is enough evidence to reject the Humane Society's claim or not. So the evidence or information from the sample said that 200 households were surveyed, and out of those 200, 12 had taken in a stray dog. In other words, the value for N is 200 and the value for X is 12. The proportion is X out of N. N's the total number, X is the part that qualifies. So the claim is that 5% of U.S. households have taken in a stray dog. We're going to be looking at that 5% as a proportion, so a decimal. And since we are talking about proportion again, we're going to use the symbol P. Sounds like they're claiming the number is 5%, so we want an equal sign next to the null hypothesis to represent our claim. And that would make not equal for the alternative. We know that makes a two-tail test. So we're thinking about a little bit of shading in the left and a little bit more in the right. To find the standardized test statistic and p-value to make our decision, we'll go back to Stat, Tests, 1 prop Z test. P sub 0 will be the number from the hypothesis. So that's the 0.05. P sub 0 is the population proportion we're trying to test. And then for our sample, we know that 12 out of 200 have taken in a stray dog, so X is 12, N is 200. And we want to make sure we have the correct alternative hypothesis and not equal to selected. And then we can calculate or draw. The standardized test statistic, again, is a Z. So we're looking for the Z number on the calculator there. Z numbers are usually rounded to 2 places, so I'm going to put 0.65. And then to help make our decision, we need the P value. Often on homework, they ask us to round P values to 3 places, so let's round that one to 0.516. The alpha they gave us in the problem was 0.05. So in this case, P is greater than alpha, since 0.5 is bigger than 0.05. We know the decision then is fail to reject HO. If we fail to reject HO, because HO is the claim, that means we are not going to reject the claim. So we would say there is not enough or insufficient evidence at the 5% level to reject the Humane Society's claim that 5% of U.S. households have taken in a stray dog. Back on that 1 prop Z test, remember another option is to draw, and we would see that two-tail test. And we would see where that standardized test statistic comes in. That lets us know where the shading begins. It looks like it's at a positive 0.65 on the right and a negative 0.65 on the left. On the next page of our notes, we can see the steps for the test, and they are virtually identical to what we've been doing all along in Chapter 7. The only difference is now we're just dealing with a proportion, so we don't have to worry so much about sigma. What we want to know for sure is that it's approximately normal. The problems in the homework should qualify, so we'll carry on with the test as usual. On the next page, there's a problem for you to try. So push pause on the video, see if you could complete this last hypothesis test. One thing that makes this one just a little bit different is for our sample of 1,995 people, they don't tell us the exact number who say online food purchases for them are snacks. What we can do though is we can figure out what 20% of 1995 is, and we know that's our value for X. So 20% of 1995, of tells us to multiply 0.2 times 1995, and that comes to 399. So with a percent, we can calculate N for ourselves. They were talking about at most 18%, so we translate that as less than or equal to 0.18 for our claim. That gives us a greater than for the alternative and makes it a right tail test. The calculator will give us the next couple of numbers we need. When we go back to 1 prop Z, putting in the number from the claim for P naught, the 399 and the 1995 for X and N, greater than. By the way, for that X there, you don't even have to have it calculated yet. You can just type 0.2 times 1995 right there and let the calculator figure it out as you go. So we'll calculate or draw. In either case, we'll have the P number and the Z number we need. Z's are often rounded to 2 places, so 2.33 on the homework when they ask for the standardized test statistic. That will be the Z. And then we need the P to help make our decision. They're often rounded to 3 places, so 0.010 in this case, which is less than the alpha they gave us of 0.10. Since P is less than alpha, we reject HO. So rejecting HO means we're going to do away with that one and go with the other one. Since that was the claim, we're saying we have enough evidence to reject the claim at the 10% level.